there. So I wanted to come and make this video and go through some fact sharing with the public because unfortunately we've not been able to have like a full and robust conversation as a community. I've made some efforts. We had a library meeting in January. I go to the school board meetings and we try to have a discussion, but it's not been allowed. And recently I went to the hospitality house and we had a nice back and forth, a Q&A, if you will. And of course, there's the newspaper and there's Facebook. And these are all just pieces and parts of kind of a dysfunctional system instead of a whole conversation. But I'm going to try my best to pull those pieces and parts together and like synthesize it into a narrative that anyone can follow. That's my goal. So I'm going to start, where am I going to start? Let's look at this letter. This letter was written or published on April 14th, and it's currently April 18th. And I'm just going to go through and kind of break it down and share some facts that I think are relevant to this information that we shared here. So this was written by Tara Locke, who is the clerk for the Big Timber Grade School District. It's on the topic of unification, and it's specifically in response to a fiscal district unification fiscal impact report that was shared. I wrote it, it was shared. It's on the website, bigtimberunified.com, available for anyone. It's been shared with both boards, and it's full of public data that's just been curated, if you will, and shared. In it, she references that if the Big Timber grade school were to pay for 60% of the full-time superintendent at the proposed salary and benefit package, it would actually increase the cost to Big Timber grade school by $15,000. Then we are currently paying for our 50% superintendent. Okay, so let's break that down. The 50% superintendent, I think, is what she means. It's the person who holds that position currently has a 0.5 FTE, which is half-time equivalent, right? And the contract for that is $55,000 plus the benefits package for half-time. So roughly 20 hours a week, right? And I had proposed in the unification fiscal impact report a very competitive salary, just as a benchmark, just so that people wouldn't have the availability to say that we're trying to go cheap and cut as low as possible a superintendent. I picked like the upper end of the scale, $165,000, including benefits and Social Security, all the things that are would be tied to that position. So for $165,000, divide that, there's a formula that's given to us by the state, and it's based on the number of employees that superintendent would be in charge of at each school. So when you look at the number of teachers at the high school and the number of teachers at the grade school, the split is 60-40. So 60% of the staff come from the grade school, so 60% of the salary would go to the grade school, right? That's what she's referencing. And she got that directly from the fiscal impact report. So she's saying, you take that $165,000 package, you divide it by 60% to the grade school, that makes the number go up from what we're currently paying the superintendent that we have half-time, and by $15,000. And the question is, where would we get that money? Two things. Okay. I want to help answer that question, I want to share with you all a tax bill. It's actually my tax bill. Okay. I've tried to redact things. You'll see that it's really me. We all have one of these. If you live in Sweetgrass County, you have a tax bill, you can access it. Happy to show you how if you'd like to know. Obviously they send it to us in the mail, but you can pull it up on the internet too. And here's what it is. If you would look, you will see that, let's see if I can point. This section right here is where the school stuff comes from. And the school stuff tells us that we have line items for our elementary school district and our high school district. And so what I'm trying to say in response to the letter is that I would ask if anyone could produce a tax bill that only has the grade school on it. because it does not exist. Even though the district clerk of that district is only looking at her own budget, as taxpayers, we're responsible for both buckets. And if you have a rural elementary school that you send your children to, but they go to the high school, you also have two line items. You have your rural elementary school district and the high school. We all have both, right? So it's not really fair math. I would say it's misleading to be so focused on one school when no one pays for just one school. I live in town. I pay for the in-town district and the high school. So that's what you see, right? And so my point would be, that's not a fair way to look at it. You wouldn't look at the holistic number and say, we are saving money in this line item because currently we're spending over $200,000. I think it's like $240,000 for the 4 administrators that are in charge of these less than 500 students in Big Timber, in town. And that's a lot. And we all share that burden because we all pay for the high school and we all pay for our elementary school, whether that's BTGS or one of the rural schools. So that there's no splitting it, except for that current district clerk is looking just at her spreadsheets. Okay, hope that made sense. Okay, so there was also a community letter shared by the BTGS staff in which, let me pull it. Okay. There was also this letter that hopefully you're seeing that was written and signed by the Big Timber Grade School staff. And in it, there's a lot of good things that are shared. Totally supportive of how awesome our teachers are, how great our students are, how everyone's doing a lot of exciting things that we should celebrate. All good vibes. Love that. So there's a lot to agree with here. And then there's just some numbers I wanted to talk about and point out a little bit towards the end of the letter. It says how we can, okay, so our staff has experienced having one person performing the task of principal and superintendent. It's true, it was mostly that way for the last like 13, 15 years until recently, when it was split and changed from a model where now there's one full-time principal and the half-time superintendent that we talked about earlier. And the staff wants to attest to the fact that our elementary school is a job that requires more than one on-site administrator. Okay, so let's talk about that, because what's being proposed with unification and how it would work is, this reminds me of a question that was asked at the hospitality house recently. Someone said, now if unification were to happen, does that impact the superintendents and the principals or what? There's some confusion around that, but unification is unifying the district leadership. District leadership is only the superintendents. Every building has its own day-to-day manager, if you will, and that is the principal. So unification does not impact the principal role in any way, not financially, not in any way. They'd be completely left alone in this picture. So when we're talking about unifying leadership, we're talking about unifying the role of the superintendent. Okay, so they're saying that they can attest to the fact that they need more than one on-site administrator. And what they have now is one principal and a half-time superintendent. But what unification would do is they would leave their full-time principal in place and they would have a part-time administrator, a part-time superintendent. This superintendent would devote 60% of their time and attention to the grade school and 40% roughly to the high school. Now, in reality, I don't think that we like nickel and dime the superintendent to make sure it's such an even split. The superintendent would be a K through 12 superintendent and would be responsible for both schools, both principals, all the teachers. But slightly more of the salary, slightly more of the teachers would come from the grade school. So if we're doing straight math, right now they have 1.5 helping them run that elementary school. In a unification scenario, they would have 1.6. So when they advocate for not cutting administration, there's a line down here. We have a great school, great staff, and we cannot afford to make cuts in administration. Great. Unification would not do that. So there's a lot in this letter that is wonderful and makes a lot of sense. And so I think there's just some points of confusion that we should be all on the same page about as a community. Great. Okay. What is the next thing? Let's talk about enrollment, because a lot of the money and the numbers come from enrollment. And before we start diving into that, I want to share with you a video from, it's 4 minutes long, and it's from the March 11th board meeting at the grade school. Let me pull that up. I am going to share this whole 4-minute clip. And I wanted to say that if you'd like to see the full meeting in its entirety, it's important to remember that all of our public meetings are recorded and shared on the school's websites because of the sunshine laws and how we have a right in this state because of the Constitution to participate meaningfully in our publicly funded organizations. And so that's just wanted to say that before I show you a slice of a meeting, just for the sake of this not being forever and a day long.
If you've been operating maximum, most schools do. You vote everything you can get and you use all you can get. We don't. We try to keep it a little more efficient.
Yeah.
The schools do that if they were facing the enrollment that we've had the last few years, then they would be way over max. They would have to be running it or else making cuts. But we've got that cushion so that enrollment goes up and down. We can stay where we're at and not have to worry about that cut.
Right.
Then a lot of schools do their rundown max. We're counting.
How's that measured?
So you're required to have a minimum budget.
Sure.
And that's at 80% of your maximum budget. Does that make sense, kind of?
Oh, yeah, I meant
That's me.
Yeah, I meant you said we are in an okay place because we have this cushion where we're operating under our max.
Right.
And I mean the cushion. How's the cushion being measured? Is it being measured in like number of students or like not like number of dollars or percentage
of dollars. So the maximum is 100%. This year we're running at about 94% of what we could spend.
So if our max budget was $100,000, just for numbers,
We're at 94.
we're at
Sure. Is there a range even where like at this enrollment number you don't have your knowledge?
Oh, that's a really good question because that's one. I mean, it is a big factor, right? That's the big factor that drives things, but also.
Okay, two things. A and B, which we're going to talk a lot about, stands for average number belonging, and it is the state's formula for your enrollment. So when you hear A and B, think average number belonging or the number that the state is using for the enrollment formula for funding.
Right now, what time?
But we were like at 250 at the beginning of the A&B numbers were sent in February.
Yes.
So I'm just like, it sounds like the cushion has been going away. It's been dwindling, right? And that's part of the reason why it's built in on purpose.
Right.
Right.
We do. Most schools don't, but we do.
What like loss? Like what number of enrollment?
I could probably figure that out like a snapshot right now. I wouldn't be able to tell you that next year the number's this because I don't know what the state funding is going to look like a year from now, what the legislature is going to increase.
it's a moving target.
So the maximum budget flush, I mean, it's year to year, but I could probably calculate what the number would be to pay.
Okay, so the A&B is set at the time. It's in February. When is the state done with their number?
Well, like like I said, I can do it right now, but I couldn't tell you what that number is for next year because the legislature makes it. Right. Right, for this, right,
26%.
yeah. And then.
We have till now, till the next day's number is sent to the state. That is your full snapshot in time, right? That window right there.
Between now and then, but the A&B is going to be working for it next year.
When does the state change that number?
We have a legislative session next year.
Okay, so let's clean this up because there's some things in here that aren't quite right. This meeting took place on March 11th of this year, so like roughly a month ago. And at this time, we had already sent to the state the February report, February of 2026, the A and B numbers. So those are already set. They're not going to change between now and when school starts in August or this fall. Also, the legislature meets every 2 years on odd numbered years. So they met in 2025, they'll meet in 2027. So again, those numbers aren't going to change. They're already set for right now. So the thing I'm asking for can be done. And here in a little bit, I'm going to show you that I got those numbers for us.
So we'll probably know. The last couple sessions, they've been quick getting out, like Monday to February, but sometimes it's the end of the day.
Sometimes.
Right.
They make major
And then the other thing, the other thing that kind of throws a wrench in is trying to get to that magic number that I think I understand you're asking for. Middle school kids are paid at a different rate than elementary kids, so.
Depends where they are lost from.
Where they're lost from, impacts on both sides up to that too, so it's kind of a.
Yeah.
It's kind of a hard number to pin down exactly.
For sure.
But, I mean, I could throw out all part, I guess.
I just think something worth like projecting and tracking, even if it's squishy.
Yeah. I'll see what I can put together. Kind of what it would look like, what would it have to look like right now to be at that maximum, is what you're asking. What would our goal would be?
Yeah.
What put us there, okay. I try to figure that out.
It's gonna be great, there's just a lot of. Right. But that's gonna change this year, so, right.
Okay, so now that we have seen that March meeting, it's April and we already had the April board meeting, and I've not been shared with, or no one has been shared with, these numbers. So I went ahead and did the math myself because all of this information is public. So what we're going to do next is I'm going to walk you through, screen share, how I got all of those numbers and how I did that math so that you can see with me. I'm a big fan of transparency and accountability. This isn't magic. This isn't, this is math. We can all do it. And as taxpayers, these are legitimate questions. So that's why I did that math and I'm sharing it with you. First, we want to start with these documents because this is what is sent to the state and this is where all those numbers that were just referenced in that meeting come from. So you'll see, let me point out a couple of things. You'll see E1 here versus M1. Those are the two different ways that the math is calculated for the funding, right? And you'll see the numbers. And down here below, you'll see the math of the money and how the state funds it. So there's another thing I want to explain too. There's the average, the 3-year average, and then there's the real number. And what the state does is they allow each individual district to pick either your real numbers for enrollment or your 3-year average. And when your real numbers are lower and quite a bit lower than your 3-year average, it makes a lot of financial sense for a district to use their 3-year average. We are using our 3-year average and have been for a while because our enrollment has been steadily and rapidly declining. So what you'll see here is I'm showing you the 2024 numbers for the grade school. And at the spring of this year, there was 300 students in the K through 8, 300 total. I also have the 2025 numbers up, and we also have the 2026 numbers up. And we had these numbers at the March meeting. This is already set. This isn't changing between now and August when school starts. I want to point out another thing that is significant and change between this report in 2024 and this 2026 number. Was it this year? Okay, so this is 2025, and in 2026, you'll see we have a new classroom. It's the pre-K. The pre-K was added. So keep that in mind when I'm about to walk you through some numbers about the dramatic and steep enrollment decline. Okay, so is my calculator up there? Okay, in the spring of the, so that would have been the 2023-2024 school year, the spring, we had 300 students. So think 300 students at the end of that school year. And then the beginning of the school year, the next school year, we started with 289, which is a pretty steep decline. Okay. And then now at the last board meeting, it was shared with us that we currently have 266 students, and that's a pretty steep drop. But what we have to keep in mind is that it's even steeper when you factor in that a whole new classroom was added. Right? Okay, so currently the numbers we sent up to the state were 261, and that's locked in time, unfortunately, because right now I'm told at the last board meeting we have 266. So we lost those 5 students we don't get to count for our next year's funding. But we are using the 3-year average, which is a huge lifesaver because we don't have to use these real numbers. We can use the 3-year average. So when we do the 3-year average, it's not 260, it's 296, which is a big lifesaver, really, because the way you get the number of the per student value that the state funds us is you take these numbers right here. You take the this is a basic entitlement that you get. It's not based on enrollment, and this is the per student number. So you take this number and you divide it by that number, and that's what you get the per student number. And it's different for the elementary grades and the middle school grades. This is all the math you need to do all the crunching of numbers right here. And the state helps us out. Where's let's see, here we go. Okay. The state provides these kind of charts online. Big fan of the gems.opi.mt.gov. All of this public data is housed there. It's available to us all. Just have to know where to look. This chart here shows us the 3 lines between our base, our adopted budget, and our max budget. And that was referenced in that board meeting. So the base is the yellow line, and it's 80% of this number that is calculated based on enrollment. And then there's the adopted budget, which we decide on locally. And then there's the 100% max line that's at the top. And which demographic am I looking at here? Okay, so this is the entire state. Okay, so let me show you how this works. What you want to do is you want to go in here and you want to select the county and the school district that you are interested in. So for us, we go to Sweetgrass. We're going to just do the Big Timber Grade School, which is its own district, and these are our numbers here. Close that. So what you'll see is that we're at so our adopted budget is 2.58. Our max budget is 2.73. That gap is our cushion, and we're at 94.47% of max. And what happens is when our number of our A and B, which the state currently has at 316, and at our 316 at our last board meeting, we were at 266 with the addition of a new classroom. That just shows you how different our 3-year average and our reality is. And as it catches up, every year the average is going to go down and down, right? Because when you have your data set for your average, when you replace a low number, you put in a low number to the data set and you take out a high number from the data set, it's just going down and down and down until eventually it will pretty much match the reality, which is 266. So the difference between last year's number, which was 316, and this coming year's number that we have to use for building our budget, I've showed it to you, but let me just show you. So it was 316. That was what we built our last budget on. And then with the updated A and B, it's now 296. That's a difference of 20 students. And that is roughly okay, let me share you the numbers one more time. Hang on. Is this the grade school? I've also got the high school, so this is the grade school. Okay, so we'll just do the math together so you can follow me. All right, so if we take this number, bring back my calculator. Okay, this number, 6,670 is what the state pays us per elementary student. Okay, let's do it for the middle schoolers. Okay, so we've got and this one's about 8,550. Okay, so those are the 2 numbers that are used for funding our schools based on the number of students that we have. And so I'm kind of being loose with my numbers. We can do this like very concretely, and I think we should, but roughly we're talking about $7,000 per kid, right? What's the last number? It was Okay. Plus this number. $7,610 is the average between the two. Okay, and we lost 20 kids between this number, which is what the state was funding us on last time, and this number, which is our updated number, right? There's the 20 kids we lost. Take that times the 7,610 average that our kids are paid for by the state. It's $152,000. That's the cushion. This is how we do the math. It's not magic. That was what the difference was between the budget we adopted and the budget that is max. And why does this matter? When we reach our max, in order to fund our schools, we have, if it goes over that, we have to pass a levy. And if we don't pass a levy, then we have to make cuts. The high school, they're running at and above their max all the time. And so they have to try to pass levies. And if the levies fail, then they're in a sort of a budget crisis. They have to find money from somewhere, or they have to cut programs or cut teachers. We're pretty close to being in that situation with the grade school. So I asked the superintendent at the meeting, what is the, what's the cushion? And then we're currently at 296 students, but that's going to change. I did the math and I'm happy to share it with you and show you. Basically, we're a year away from there being no cushion. Let me share that with you. So we have to do, okay, so let me just preface this briefly by saying that I'm a financial planner by trade, and during the day, that's what I do. I help people find out if they're going to have enough money through retirement. And that involves running Monte Carlo scenarios and crunching, you know, what's the probability of success that this couple or this household has enough money by the end of their plan, depending on how long we project that they're going to live. So projecting out numbers is what I do all day. So that's what I did with these numbers. And it's not that complicated. What we do is we look at the number of students in each grade, which we have, they're right there. And then we project them forward. And then we use the state's per child number to figure out the money. It's not that complicated. And we can project forward our annual average number belonging, the 3-year average. We can project that forward too. The only thing we don't know for sure is the number of incoming kindergartners. And so I made an assumption based on the 5-year average. The 5-year average was 28 students. So if we use 28 students for that number, we can project out that, let me share it with you. Okay, the average number belonging for the year after this year would be 281. So the last number we sent up to the state was 296, and that's the number we get to use for our budget for the school year that starts in August. And the year after that, based on the projections of all the kids we currently have, assuming we don't lose any, and guessing that we get 28 kindergartners, our next year will be 281. And if that reality happens, the cushion is gone. We are at and above max, and either at that point in time, we have to either pass a mill levy or we have to make cuts. So I understand that this is long-winded and this is complicated, but it's not rocket science, and it's all public information. And these are valid questions that we can ask as taxpayers because we fund these salaries. Whether you have a kid in the school or not, we should be shared this information. And when people think if it's not broke, don't fix it, it's about to be broken if it's not already. We lost 34 kids in 2 years in the grade school alone, which is about $250,000 in state funding that no longer comes to our community. The average, and it's a loose average, teacher salary package is $70,000. So where are these teachers going to go? Because we will not, I just think that we need to be open to looking at the structure of how we're funding our schools. And we are top heavy. We can prove that by looking at all the Class B students, all the Class B schools in the state. We can compare ourselves to our peers and see, are we top heavy? And we are. If you don't believe me, don't take my word for it. I encourage you to check out the data. I'm happy to hold anyone's hand, to have a conversation with anyone. I will walk you through it. I will show you where the primary source information is. If you don't trust me, you can do it all yourself. It's all public information. This is the website where I'm hosting all of that public information that I'm curating so that you don't have to spend all the time I've spent on this. There's this flip book. If you launch it, you can page through it, and it's 34 pages long. It compiles 8 different school districts that are similar to us and talks about it projects out the enrollment numbers, and it shows that number that Tara Locke was talking about in her letter to the editor. That is a projected number. We don't have to agree to that package, but that's a competitive package. If we were to offer that, we could have like a long queue of K-12 superintendents in line to work with our schools. And what else is in here? Here are the other, there are like 42 different schools that are Class B. And I've given you the numbers for all of them, whether they're unified, how many students they have, and all the math is here. Here is what it would cost to level up the teacher salary. In her letter, she does talk about decreasing benefits for teachers. That is not proposed. What is actually proposed is spending $31,000 to level everybody up so no one loses money and many people will get a raise. It goes over healthcare and HSAs. It goes over retirement benefits and leave and unused time and sick pay. It goes over as many things as I could think of. And it talks about possible solutions. None of this is set in stone. This is all negotiable. If we unify, the unified district gets to make these decisions with the input of all the people that deserve to have a voice at the table. And then at the end, there is an appendix, which I think is interesting. It goes through different perspectives on local peer districts and how they're funding their contracts. And it tells you who has the most attractive package based on different perspectives. So whether you are a fresh grad teacher right out of school, which school would you like to work at? Whether you're a coach and a community leader, if you want to coach who's got the best district, whether you are ready for retirement and you've spent your whole career in one place, who's got the best package for you. And then lastly, it says, who's got the best contract for the taxpayer and who has the largest unfunded liability that the taxpayer might have to bear. So I encourage people to check that out. One more thing I'll show you. On the website, there is a link to the primary documents. So if you want to dig into the folder and look at all the things I've shared with you, you already have access to them from the state of Montana, but I've pulled them into here for you to make that faster for you. You can look in here too. Yeah, so I just want to encourage people to be open to the conversation. And I understand that a lot of people are really close to this emotionally. We have people in this community who have served and worked here for 20+ years. We've got family amongst the staff and a lot of loyalty, which is beautiful. It's a great character quality to have, loyalty to your friends. And all of that is good and true. But it's not a bad thing to ask questions of how our publicly funded schools are run. And if we have concerns like we're losing 34 students in 2 years, what's the impact of that? And how are we going to make a plan to ensure that our schools stay great? Those are valid questions, and we should be open to having a robust conversation about possible solutions without the need to like rally the troops, because questions are not a threat to a strong institution. They make it better. So I will leave you with that, and have a good one. Thank you.